How's it going, Film and TV fans? Welcome back to another review on the Film Nerd Review channel, and we're back at it again with another Marvel TV series. This time one that I think is one of the better ones. I won't lie, I think this is my third favourite MCU TV show. I think, although it's in stiff competition, I think with Moon Knight, because this one, I think, like I said before, Moon Knight, this, and Loki are really the pinnacle of Marvel TV, I think. And obviously this is, of course, if you cannot tell, Marvel Studios' Hawkeye released last year in November, so it is a very Christmassy themed series, so, you know, bear that in mind. But I like, the best thing about this specific series is the small scale of it. It's just Hawkeye dealing with Christmas and a few baddies. It's not end of the world shit like in Loki, or completely changing the timeline shit like in Loki. It's a small scale series, and that's what I respect the most about it. But we're talking about our first episode here, so it sets up our characters like Kate Bishop, and I think this is a great first episode. It sets up Kate Bishop, Jack. It also has an interesting actor in this TV series who portrays, I think, the father of Jack, Armand Van something or whatever, and that actor had previously played Charles Dickens in an episode of Doctor Who. Episode of Series 1 of Doctor Who. So that's cool. I think, like I said, Hawkeye as a series starts really cool with the Rogers the Musical, which you'll be hearing the song from that in our episodes 3 and 6 segments. So look forward to that. The next thing after this is Spider-Man, so I'm hoping to sort of try and get this all done by the end of this lovely weekend. So yeah, Hawkeye is a show that I very much am going to enjoy going back to, because it was one I very much enjoyed watching when it first came out. So join us as we talk, or join me as I talk about Hawkeye Series 1, or Season 1, which I believe is going to be a one series deal, like WandaVision. Hasn't been fully confirmed yet, but it's safe to assume. I mean, even still, it could, it's like Loki, where it could, because it's so separated from the rest of the universe, it could go on for another season, so I hope it does, because it's great fun, but no biggie if it doesn't, sort of thing, if you ask me. Yeah, Hawkeye is one that I very much loved watching, and again, this first episode sets up Kate Bishop quite nicely, it sets up Jack quite nicely, it has a nice action scene with the Ronin costume. For me, Hawkeye just represents the MCU, sort of giving. It is also represents the final of the original 6 Avengers getting their own solo project. Now, I think what's important to note about that is that every other solo Avengers project has A, been a movie, and B, had them as the sole focus. As we go on to Hawkeye, you'll soon learn that this actually isn't a Hawkeye series, it's really just a setting up other character series with Hawkeye as the main star / helping out person. So I can kind of respect that in some degree, but I think Hawkeye has a great sense of intrigue, and I cannot wait to explore this show with you guys, because it's one of my favourite MCU shows. I won't lie, it's one of my favourite MCU shows, and I just love the Christmas setting. I think the whole Ronin stuff, as it goes on, it gets really fun. There's some nice action sequences in this first episode, so yeah. Hawkeye Season 1 review is starting now. Well, we're on episode 1. So yeah, enjoy the show. Yeah, episode 1, like I said, has really got some really great moments in it. And yeah, on to episode 2. I'll pass over to my future recorded self. Good day. Alright, so episode 2 of Hawkeye is a very interesting one. I think it does continue to set itself into the world of Hawkeye, and especially its ending is quite interesting for me, if you ask me. Definitely does continue to set up Armand and Jack as interesting characters, which it always did do, in my opinion. I think it continues Clint's story in an interesting way. The live action role playing stuff is quite funny, I will admit. I think that's quite funny. I think it's really an interesting one, I say. But alas, I think it does expand the chemistry between Clint and Kate, which there are some of. It introduces the Tracksuit Mafia, which is quite a funny. But yeah, I always think Hawkeye is a show that's actually really quite good. One of the better MCU shows, like I said previously. This episode does, again, continue to create... You get to see interesting moments between... the live-action role-playing sequence is really funny. They go into into Kate's aunt's house, which is funny as well. So I think it's just one of those things where it's a lot of fun, but there are some serious moments too. Which is, I think, the most important thing about it, really. Yeah. It's just hella fun. And I think them shopping for supplies is a cute scene as well, I think. And again, the live action role playing stuff is fun as well. And obviously it ends with Echo being introduced, which is really cool. So that really does make the episodes, make you want to watch the rest of the series. So yeah, that's episode 2 of Hawkeye. Episode 3 review coming now with the future recorded self. Right, so episode 3, it's an episode where I will admit the car chase sequence is fucking awesome. I genuinely think that's one of the better sequences of this movie, all in all, to be honest with you. I think it's one that I think the use of the different types of different types of arrows is really cool. I think it really does add a level to the series of having that really cool car chase where they nearly go in the Mustang but they don't, so it's not as good. Yeah, I just think it really adds that level of just sick moment, genuinely. The rest of the episode is fine. It functions in the right ways. It does the right things. Has the right people in it. It just again, I think the big issue I have with Hawkeye as a show in general really just comes down to the fact that and this episode is one that makes that very apparent, it's not really a Hawkeye show, because the first episode sets up Kate Bishop and her backstory and her opening sequence. This episode sets up Echo. There's another episode that sets up Fisk. There's another one that sets up Elena. It's just where it's sort of just used to move. I get having it calling it Hawkeye. It means that there's a big star at the front of it, because I don't know what else you'd call it, really. Hawkeye and Friends, Hawkeye and Co, Kate Bishop the show, but then Kate Bishop's not set up enough, so they don't want to do that kind of thing. So I get calling it Hawkeye, but I will give them this though. What it's really definitely shown me that it's the best at is dealing with Clint's inability to hear, or losing of hearing ability, and I think that's the sickest, not the sickest, but it's the coolest and the most in-depth concept that this episode explores. There's a really, really heartfelt scene in this episode where Kate Bishop has to essentially translate for Clint because he's broken his hearing chip, and it really makes you wonder how, that I think maybe the core series concept was obviously using Kate Bishop obviously to deal with Hawkeye's hearing impediment, and I think that really reflects on the show's ability to, they get the hearing aid fixed, so that's stuff that ain't gonna happen again, but there are some moments where it's an obvious thing that you can imagine to see coming, but Kate Bishop is speaking and Hawkeye can't hear her, and then he puts his thing in and then he can hear her, and she's just like, seriously bro, you weren't listening to me? That's fucked. But yeah, the whole breaking into her house is interesting, and then obviously we get the ending where they get caught by Jack, which is cool. I will admit it's an episode I think could do with being trimmed off a bit, but other than that, I think it's a solid episode of the series that definitely does demonstrate my main complaint, that it's not entirely a Hawkeye television show. It is. It's a let's set up any other characters we can find and set them up kind of show. So I can kind of unfortunately see that. But yeah, on to episode 4, Partners, Am I Right? Right, so episode 4. Now this is an episode that not only introduces Yelena into the picture, but it does continue to set up the rest of the story, where we see, negotiations between certain characters. We see Kate Bishop break into Echo's flat, who's called Maya, but characters, you know what I mean, her flat, and then obviously the Black Widow assassin thing really adds the whole next level to the whole thing. But there's also great scenes with Kate Bishop in the lift with an older gentleman. It's funny. The live action role-play has come back into play as well, which is quite fun, I won't lie. Yeah. Yeah, it's a well-rounded episode. It is, like I said, they breaks into Echo's apartment, which is sick. There's some cool elements that happen, I think, in this episode, and per se also points to the fact that this episode does fit the bill, I think is the right word. Which is cool. I think it definitely does add a lot to the stakes of the rest of the series. Which I rate. I do rate that. But its characters are very single-minded, I think, in a lot of... in that regard. Yeah, it is just one of those episodes that give so much and so little at the same time. Yeah, there's the Rolex comes into play in this story as well, which is sick, and I will rate that. Yeah, it's a genuinely positive episode that I think is one of the better ones, and it leads quite slightly into the final two episodes where Yelena and Cope play a good part. So, on to episode 5, everyone. Right, so episode 5 now. I think this is, again, one of the stronger episodes of the show because it then continues to, have a multitude of characters in it. So, the opening episode, much like I have stated in a couple of previous episodes, was another character setup, although this time it's not setting up a character from scratch. It's telling us where Yelena went after the events of Black Widow and how she, and obviously how her involvement in that department works. And essentially what it was that she got blipped in a house. But I actually like the way they show it here, because in most other ways they've shown the blip so far, and other characters being involved in the blip that weren't directly there, sort of thing, usually they just show the person coming back into existence. But here they show it as in it literally is a fraction of a second. She goes into the bathroom, puts some water on her face, disappears, and then reappears within a second. But so that's kind of how it played out in a way. But it was 5 years sort of thing, and I really like that because that makes it quite intriguing to me personally. But I also think that this episode has some really great moments, such as the rooftop fight that I quite like, the sequence where Yelena goes to Kate Bishop's house, where this is obviously the episode where we meet Yelena. No, it's not, I'm wrong. The rooftop fight was in the last episode, but that was still a good moment. But this episode is just the one where she goes to... This is the episode where she goes to she goes to Kate's house, and they have the macaroni funny moment that I quite like. And then another pivotal moment at the end of this episode is we find out that the person that's been teased throughout this entire episode, the big bad, the uncle, as it was called in several episode moments, is that we find out that not only was Yelena hired by Kate's mother, but that Kate's mother was in a picture. Yelena sends Kate a picture of her mother with none other than Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. So yes, of course, Kingpin plays a big part in the finale. It's sick. It's a Daredevil time because it's the same actor who played Kingpin in the Daredevil TV series, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, it's one of the better episodes of the series, I can't lie. Again, the musical score by Pair of Axos and Christoph Beck's, Mr. Beck here, Michael Pair of Axos and Christoph Beck. Pretty sick music, won't I? You'll hear some of it now, the Clock Tower. Mishap. Yeah. Anyway, to the next episode we go. Episode 6 and the finale of Hawkeye, episode 6. So this is Christmas. Next. So the Hawkeye finale, it kind of has everything really. It has, I think, when I had to point someone in the direction of a Marvel project that has so many different characters at once that isn't an Avengers movie, this episode of this series is what I would point them to, because you have Hawkeye and Kate Bishop here, you have Wilson Fisk and Echo, you have Yelena's here as well, you have Jack, whatever his fucking name is. So you've got all these characters, and they all manage to balance the action between each other really nicely. I think it does wrap everything up nicely. There's some really nice moments between Yelena and Clint when they do finally meet. I think the elevator scene between Kate and Yelena really shows that I think Kate and Yelena have such great chemistry together. It might be the actors, it might be the actual script, but they have great chemistry, and I would love to see these two characters interact on a future Marvel project. But alas, it's a movie. Not a movie, it's an episode I think really does wrap things up nicely of a series that I thoroughly enjoyed personally. It's one of my more favoured Marvel shows. In fact, I think it's my third favourite Marvel show, behind Moon Knight in 2 and Loki in 1. Although that could change when I want to rewatch Moon Knight tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I'm gonna get most of Moon Knight done tomorrow anyway. Yeah. It's a good episode. It's a great end to a TV show that is really, really good. I won't lie. It's one of my favourite. Like I said, they all have great chemistry. The ending is really nice. One of my favourite scenes at the end of the episode is where this watch that everyone's been going on, well, not everyone, that Hawkeye's wife has been going on about for most of the series, trying to find it. He gets it back and gives it to her, and there's a shot where he gives it to her, and then he doesn't see it obviously, but she turns it over, and it's got the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo on it, which means it's revealed that she's been a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent this entire time. Which, when you trace that back to Age of Ultron, interesting development, but we'll let that go about. Like I said, I think overall as a series it manages to really pull together, not only setting up various different characters and continuing series from other TV series such as, you know, Wilson Fisk from Daredevil, also bringing in Echo, continuing Yelena's story, doing all that, while also still having a lot of focus on Hawkeye, I think, and his difficulties and his issues, and showing really what it does show is that after all these Avengers level threats, that he is at the end of the day still the most human of all of them. And I don't mean that in terms of, like, I think he genuinely is developed the loss of hearing due to being surrounded by all these explosions and stuff. So I think it really does nicely to show the human side of it. It's, again, feels like a nice small scale TV show dealing with some kind of smaller stuff. It is very funny as well in parts, and I think the whole Rogers the musical thing is quite funny too. But at the end of the day, I think Hawkeye is a great TV show. Now, a thing I want to mention before we wrap this review up is that I am fully aware that Hawkeye may or may not be coming back for a second series. So it's not confirmed by Marvel yet. So as far as I'm aware, at the time of recording this video, I've got the thumbnail for this review says Hawkeye series review, because at the moment it's one series, so like with well, it's the first one where we know it's a single series, so I've got that down as a series review for Hawkeye, for Moon Knight, and for Miss Marvel. As far as we are aware, they are one season things, although it's looking more likely that Moon Knight will get a second season other than Hawkeye, because there's still more to tell, I think, Moon Knight. But what I'm trying to get to the point is that if it does change in the near future and we do get an official announcement from Disney that Hawkeye or Moon Knight will return for a second season, I will change the thumbnail to say, much like I did with Loki season 1 review, so it will say Hawkeye season 1 review, Moon Knight season 1 review, so on and so forth. But until we get an official announcement, it will stay as Hawkeye series review. So once again, thank you so much for watching my review of the Hawkeye television series, one of, I think, the best Marvel shows. It has been a pleasure to talk about a wonderful show with some great music, great characters and action, and a show that I will definitely be going back to watch again after, you know, not to review it again and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been a pleasure talking about the show. And up next is Spider-Man No Way Home. That's going to be a chunky one, and I will warn you before even starting that episode, there will be spoilers, because I think at this point, not only is it so long after the movie that if you haven't seen it, it's kind of your problem now at this point. It's available on all medias and stuff, so if you haven't seen it yet, it's kind of just like, if I were to make this video as soon as the movie came out, yeah, I would be making it spoiler free. But because the movie's been out for quite a while now, so it's time to breathe, I'm going to be talking spoilers, so you know, it's going to be an interesting one. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned for the Spider-Man review music coming soon. The new episode of the podcast is now available on Spotify. We'll be going on the second channel as soon as I wrap up the nostalgia trilogy. So that might be a couple of days, can't lie. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and bye bye for now.